What is going on, everyone? We are back with the next episode of Dragula. Dragula. I'm Depraved.
I'm Hellcat.
Together we are.
Hello, Depraved.
Yes, we are.
So, Season 1, Episode 2. Ugly Ladies of Wrestling.
Yes.
80s style. 80s style.
Super. So, again, super sad Pinche was eliminated. Mostly because of everything she went through. So after taking all of the water and maggots and everything to the face,
Burned at the stake.
And then burned at the stake.
Yeah.
She is gone. We get an intro that starts off with Swan and Drac arguing about Pinche. Burning. It was an argument where Drac wanted to acid bath.
Yes, because then you get rid of the whole body.
Yes.
Right.
Whereas Swan was the one that came up with the idea to burn them at the stake. I believe I've got the right names with the right people. I should at this point.
I think you're right, yeah.
And it turned into a fight between the two of them. Which is funny because there have been a very small handful of times throughout this series, mostly in the first season. I think it happens again in the second season at some point, where they try to kill each other.
Well, okay, so Season 1, it happens a lot more in the intros. Like, it's just a play thing, but it's funny because of their actual dynamic.
Right.
Where they rarely even sort of disagree.
Right.
So, yeah. Fun. And then they always remember that they've got contestants to torture instead.
Right.
Which, I think is why they started this whole thing.
Well, and then, I mean, one of the cool things, and you brought this up when we were watching, as we're actually to the point they don't really do that anymore.
Yeah. In Season 5.
Because now they just try to kill everybody.
Exactly. It's just sadism.
Was it Season Titans 4 or 5 where they end up mass murdering just a bunch of random people that don't even have anything to do with the show?
Yeah.
At a party? Like a house party?
I think that was Resurrection. Or wasn't it the halfway to...
Halloween? No.
No. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah. Fun.
So after we get the actual music intro, though, we get into the boudoir.
Right.
That I will never know how to spell.
I mean, it's the closet right now.
Right, the closet.
Yeah, it's definitely not a boudoir at this point.
The cloudar. And everyone is excited to be there. Everyone's excited that they didn't get eliminated. And surprisingly, and I say surprisingly as a now long-term fan of the show, surprisingly, all of them being super supportive of each other.
It's totally low on the catty scale. Yeah.
Like, there's zero cattiness with the people that are there. Everyone's like...
At this point.
Everyone,
because it
gets
start.
But everyone there at this point, before the people that were
just
saved
happy to be there,
in,
happy to be seen, happy to support each other.
Most of them were happy with I won't say happy, but most of them understood the critiques that were given to them on the episode before. A few people, Foxy absolutely backed her love for her shoes that she got
in episode 1,
which honestly, a lot of the girls there even said that they liked her shoes. So really,
they
was
didn't match. Okay, my complaint with that one was she didn't add feathers or anything to make it part of her outfit. I mean, I'm not saying that her shoes themselves sucked, but yeah. No, it was polite.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's actually super nice and getting along, and I actually think this is where everything with Melissa B. Fierce eventually comes back in another season, where she was so used to it not being as catty as it was when she returned.
Oh yeah.
And then, because one of my big disappointments for Titans was the way she left, because I always considered her a bad bitch.
Oh, she was.
And for her to be upset enough to leave, we'll get to that when we get there. But
everything hit her all at once.
But I think a lot of that has to do with her first experience. Don't get me wrong; she gets into some cattiness before this season's over.
It's so funny because she's looking
even before this episode's over.
She's looking around the whole time, listening to what everyone has to say. Like,
No. That doesn't start happening yet.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't happen until the other people come back.
Okay.
Because even in the beginning, she was shaking her head. And she's like, yeah, and everyone's getting along, and everyone's so supportive.
Plus, she was high off of her. Oh, never mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, the first person that comes back in is Loris. And Loris even irritates me when she comes back, because one of the very first things
Loris got me. This is where everything with Loris went drastically downhill for me.
Yes, this is where it starts to go downhill for me as well. Loris comes in and immediately is like, yeah, so I'm claustrophobic, and they immediately cut to last week's episode when she's like, yeah, I'm not claustrophobic.
Which was before they went into the coffins. And here's the debate. Look, we talked about this in terms of, like, did she realize she's claustrophobic after? Or was she saying she's claustrophobic for drama? And unfortunately, and this is based on having seen all of season 1 a couple times at this point, I honestly do believe that it was more for drama's sake than it was, because you see her in the box. They've got a camera on her the entire time, and she's actually pretty cool as a cucumber.
She thrives on attention.
Yeah.
And uses victimization, her own victimization, as a tool to push that. And I don't mean that in a, like, victim way. I mean that in a...
No, she's just got a victim mentality.
Everything is... I was scared, and this happened to me. And, oh, I'm a vegan, and I can't believe... I've never had to eat a cricket since becoming a cricket.
Which isn't... Yeah.
And we eventually...
Becoming a vicket?
A vegan. And we eventually get to the point where she does her grandstand of
that's not yet.
That's later.
Like, but this is where our original, like, when we had just started watching the season, this is where Loris really kicked it up a notch for us, where we were like, well, that's not what she said last episode. No. And then they play it for you, and you're like, see, I remembered. So, again, I think it's immaturity and being young and being surrounded with a whole bunch of people that she wants to like her and this, that, and the other. But it's sad because as a creative person, she is definitely very creative. She's got good looks going. She's, but yeah. Anyway, so.
And as soon as she starts talking, this is when you start seeing Melissa be fierce.
Bombastic side-eye.
Just glaring around the room like, and you can read on her face the
this
words,
bitch serious?
Are you fucking serious right now?
Is this bitch for real? Yeah.
And then, Blackberry walks in.
No.
Not Blackberry.
Meatball.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We just, season 5 ended not so long ago. Meatball. I actually wrote Blackberry too, and I have no clue why.
It's Meatball.
Meatball walks in.
So everybody knows that it was Pinche that got...
And Meatball immediately is like, I'm so sad Pinche got eliminated because they were my best friend. And of course everyone's like, oh, I can't believe you would say that. And she was even like, yo, she's the only person I knew coming into this competition.
I don't know any of you yet.
But, and even during all this, Melissa's like, really?
Just wide-eyed, like, I don't know what these girls are on about. Yeah.
So then they get dragged into...
no pun intended.
They get dragged into the main... I don't even know what they call it in the first season at this point.
The audition room.
The main room where they find out what the fuck they're doing. And that's when we find out that Magnus Hastings, who's a celeb drag photo person, is going to be...
The guest judge,
who becomes a semi-reoccurring judge throughout the show's history.
He has a good eye. He should be.
And this is one of the first things, and this is something that they have changed, thankfully. But it is something that I did want to bring up, that I'm glad this was not the first season that I watched.
Right.
Because...
Reminder, we saw Titans first.
No, we didn't.
We saw season
4 was the first thing we watched.
First, okay.
But had I seen this happen, I might have been dissuaded to continue watching.
Right.
And it's everybody's mostly dressed up, and it's at this point that they're being announced to what it is that they're going to be doing, and you can already tell by the makeup a lot of people have on that they already knew what they were going to be doing. So it feels almost like it was an afterthought to have this conversation.
It's definitely for the audience, not for them.
And I'm almost positive these videos specifically are recorded separately and fit into the show. I'm sure they still do that.
Right.
In terms of, they're probably there in person. They're like, hey, just to let you guys know, you guys are going to be doing this.
Right.
And then we get the video of them all dressed up.
Yeah, the only part that I don't know if they're just getting the info on, as we were talking about when we watched it
the
again,
elimination challenges.
They might not know what the actual challenge is. But
they definitely were cued in.
Yeah, they already knew. And
far enough in advance that they've got their makeup on and they're already half dressed and...
Yeah. Which, it makes sense. Like, from what I've been told, they get a list of looks that they're maybe not totally defined looks, but like you're going to have to provide for yourself stuff to make looks based on these kind of themes. Right. And it may not, I don't know how concrete all of those are, but they are at least prepared when they come at this point. I don't know about season 1. In terms of you need to have stuff to complete this kind of thing. So, I mean, that's very obvious in this one. But again, this season 1, while I love the characters as a whole, but love them, it's just very crude in comparison. It's very raw to what we see now. And I know that the Boulet brothers like the interview styles and stuff that happened when it was raw, but on the flip side, these are the parts that I'm glad, I like the flow of episodes better now.
Yeah, we actually noticed when we were getting everything set for the first episode that this first season, every episode's 30 to 40 30-ish minutes. Roughly 40. And then all the newer ones are almost an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know when that changes.
It fluctuates between an extra 20 minutes to... Yeah, but again, it's more about the flow and the production value. It's not as polished. And I wish they were able to keep the rawness of the interviews that they like, but proceed with the polished production value. Because it's easier to listen to, too, because there's a lot of echoing. There's even in the dramatization at the very beginning between Swan and Drac, where it's in their house or something. It just sounds very...
I will say, there's a certain level of charm to it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because as somebody who grew up a fan of B horror movies...
That's exactly...
You get that vibe. That it's they did what they could with the money that they had.
And they did an excellent job.
And they did a fine job. I just, for this specific thing, it was more of, it feels like they were trying to trick us into believing
that the girls
girls just found out.
Yeah.
And you definitely know they didn't just find out.
I think if they had just introduced it as the audience can see you ladies are ready to do this, so we will explain to you what the actual challenge is. But I also still feel like the cuts are very... they're very, very obvious versus the flow of the newer ones.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like, oh my god, wait, we're already done? We're just jumping from here to here, which is what season 1 so far feels like. So, anyway.
So, then we get the intro video of, which I don't really do these too often anymore either. No. It's a little intro video of the actual drag part of it.
Right.
Where it's a guy dressed up as an 80s wrestler.
Right. Looked almost more aerobic-y than,
a female 80s wrestler. And I'm going to say she, just for...
Yeah.
I don't know what they go by. But she looks, to be 100% honest, like an actor by the name of Patrick Warburton. And for those of you that don't know who that is by name, because I don't expect most people to know, what you should know them as is they look like a live... If you've ever seen the live-action Tick TV show from the 90s, He's also been in Men in Black, as well as a couple of other shows that I can't remember off the top of my head.
But it's the bright blue tick outfit that,
But no, it's not even the tick outfit. The guy's face. It looks, as the actor, it looks like...
he was stuck on that. He was like, wait.
Every time I see the episode, that's what I think. All right. So, we're going to go through and show you guys each person's individual look. Obviously, we don't have the, detailed 360 view of what everyone looks like.
Right. That would be so cool, though.
But
have, the little models that rotate. Kind of like
super
video games, yeah.
The first person out is Meatball, who I actually wrote their name right here.
That's good. I'm proud of you.
Right.
All right.
So there's Meatball. They went by Meatball Supreme.
I mean, that makes total sense, and I'm getting major mustard vibes there.
Then there's Melissa B. Fierce, who goes by Kitty Cunt.
Right.
Then we've got Foxy Adjue, who, if I can find them, is the shit.
Ballsy.
Then we go with Loris, whose wrestling name is Nuclear Nelly. Then we have Ursula Major, who goes by Saturday Night Beaver.
I love that name. I'm sorry.
Then we go by...
It's probably one of my favorite in terms of name.
Vander Von Odd, who goes by the Meta Darling. And a side note for the Meta Darling here, I wrote down specifically, they're the only ones that brought a prop.
Oh, yeah. She went
an actual, full-on prop.
That she just,
because I guess technically Meatball had a sandwich that they were eating and they dropped onto.
Yeah, but no, we're talking about,
Foxy Adjue took a shit on the stage.
We're talking about a blow-up doll. Not an actual gag, but a blow-up doll.
But yeah, so Vander brought out a blow-up doll with Trump's face stuck to it.
Totally just lands an elbow in the gut.
And she wrestled with it, which was apropos. Then there's Xochi Mochi, who was known as the Lizard Queen. And then there's Frankie Doom.
I feel like there's always a reptilian lady.
Always.
Every season has...
Goes by Pink Flamingo.
Right. Every season has a big titty lady.
Always.
That's just part of their entire charm. We've got the lizard lady.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, there was one other that I...
Lately, as of the last few seasons, we didn't get one with this season. There's always at least one masked person that starts off the show.
Yeah, masked, bearded lady. We tend to get a little the beards. Yeah. Well, no, they've had Ursula has one.
True. There might be a season here or a season there that doesn't, but that is a pretty consistent comeback.
Anyway.
Also, by the way,
fabulous.
We didn't mention this. So Boulet's first... Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me get rid of Frankie Doom here. Bye, Frankie. Boulet's first look. I got to look up the episode list. Hold on. So I have a running theory, by the way. A running theory that I had brought up during our first season that we watched together. Season 4.
Since their looks don't go with the episode, normally.
Dragula season 1.
He feels like...
Episode list. So, season 1...
Episode 3?
No.
Yeah.
It is not. Okay.
He thought that they were a...
I always have this theory that, at least it might just be season 4, that it might actually work out that way if it were to do that. That their first look that they show, it seems like...
foreshadows what the next
episode's going to be about. Because I thought the next episode might have been Monsters of Rock. But I don't know.
It's 2 episodes away, isn't it?
I don't know if they have any... reading through, unless they just didn't name it Monsters of Rock. Episode 3 is Zombies in Death Valley. Episode 4 is Basic Bitches, and then Tranny Shack Club, and then the finale.
Oh, so they didn't. Okay.
And then there's a reunion. I thought that's been something.
Okay. That must have started in season 2.
Right.
Anyway,
and then
they still look really great.
And then our second look, this is their pre-stage look.
Right.
Which is fantastic. I still prefer the first look overall.
I do too.
This is another good one. They look like they're staged.
Well, and I think it's funny because when they were judging their ponytail mixed with the ruffle, and I kept going, God, that under dye job is just so, oh, never mind, that's their clothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then...
I keep saying anyway today.
No, you're
kind of stuck on it.
And then the last look...
No, and then...
Bam!
Is when they're...
Bloody aprons.
It's when they're ready to get dirty.
It's when they're about to clean.
Oh, no. They are dirty. Their blood spattered.
Which, honestly, I think is just an alteration of
it is.
Their first look.
Their second look. They're still in the same hair as the second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Lovely ladies.
So, they get through, everyone does their stage show, and again, they do a really good job of making sure they all look like superstars.
Right.
Because, again, one of the benefits to the show is we don't see the mess ups. We don't see what necessarily goes wrong.
It's the editing.
Unless it's something that they absolutely want us to make sure we see.
And normally they don't play it when they play the montage. They play it when they cast judgment, and that way the audience can see what they're talking about. Yeah.
But this, and this specifically, like they make sure everyone looks good. There's.
Yeah.
If you look bad during the initial montages, that's just because you looked bad.
You were real bad. Yeah.
Right.
There was no good clips. Yeah.
No. So they end up calling out their top 4, and I'm not going to go into whether I agree or disagree with their pickings until I go to...
Right. Until we give
you our rankings ourselves. But their top 4 are Meatball, Foxy Ajue, Loris, and Vander Von Ant.
Right.
We'll just say I agree with 2 of the 4 of those and being in the top. 2 of them I do not. And Loris ends up being their winner. Their first season they didn't actually have winners like they
just the
eventually
best
do.
It was funny because the way that it's phrased, it almost made me think of like cat or dog shows. It was like best in show.
Right.
It was funny.
But a lot of their reasoning wasn't so much that she looked the best. A lot of the reasons was how much she grew as a performer in just a 1-episode change. Like they felt that she took that elimination challenge, turned it around, and made herself better. A lot of their complaints with her from the last episode were her confidence in her performance.
Yeah.
And this time she came out and had way more confidence in what she was doing, and that's what they were mostly impressed by.
Right.
And that left the other 4 entirely up for elimination. And this is where they find out that their elimination challenge is a mud wrestling competition.
Against each other.
And what they end up doing is they end up putting Frankie Doom and Ursula Ursula Major. I about said minor.
Fair match.
Ursula Major up against each other, them being the 2 bigger people.
Right.
Makes sense. And then Melissa versus Xochitl.
Right.
Which you think is a fair fight until it happens.
No, you don't. Not if you've known anybody that acts like Melissa. You know that somebody's about to get wiped.
So their critiques, from what I can remember, for the bottom 4, because they gave more critiques for the bottom 4 than they did the top.
They did.
Their critiques. So Xochitl's was a lot of her leotard,
her costume didn't fit correctly. Yeah.
Fit correctly. It was sliding all over the place when she was performing.
It was exposing things which was really funny because the guest judge was like, and by the way, congratulations. And that was because they were getting full bulge.
Right.
As I think Dract said full bulge. And then you've got Ursula, and the problem they had with Ursula is she went with Saturday Night Beaver as her wrestling name. And honestly, the materials do strike me as very hippie, but not disco queen. And if you're going with Saturday Night Beaver, which is a play on Saturday Night Fever, which is about disco, they wanted her to have more like lame or like disco balls or, you know.
And then you get Frankie Doom. And the reason why Frankie got put on the... Honestly, I don't even remember Frankie's.
It was not... It wasn't thematic at all. It was like, she looked put together, but there was just nothing particularly outstanding about it, is how they put it. It's like, your boobs look great, as always. You've obviously got the punk vibe, but, like, there's just not, you know...
And then Melissa's, so last week was because she didn't really have the look put together. This week was her performance. Her critiques were performance-based. She's not coming out and doing the things that they know she's capable of doing.
Right.
They've seen her do stage shows in other places before.
They've seen her act before,
She's done acting. She's done, like, she does the death drops. She does flips and cartwheels and stuff like that. And she's just not performing.
And
she's
coming out as a cat and then not doing any of the acrobatics really threw them off.
And a big thing that they have as well is she came in, and I won't agree and say that the rest of the cast was scared she was there. The rest of the cast, in my opinion, judging off of that first episode, were surprised that she was there. And not because they were worried she was going to win, but because they've never seen her do any sort of alternative drag.
She's a glam queen.
She's a glam queen.
Yeah. But I do think they were intimidated because of her experience level versus... but as the guest judge said, and I think very aptly put, in this particular competition, it's like looking into the looking glass and looking for the opposite. So she came out as a glam kitten in this outfit, and he was like, and what we need to see is the alley cat. So I think that was a really good analogy for her to see what they were looking for more.
Right.
But I mean, come on. Sparkle in leotards is wrestling ladies of the 80s.
This is where my quote of the episode comes from.
Okay.
And it's pretty much everything Melissa says during their wrestling match. So Ursula and Frankie pretty much are pretty close.
Yeah,
they're going back and
they
forth.
They honestly didn't say all that much while they were wrestling, because they were
wrestling around, slamming each other in the mud, and there wasn't like any clear cut. This person was doing better than this person.
No, it was pretty.
It was pretty even. And then you get to Melissa and Xochitl.
I feel so bad for Xochitl.
I feel so bad for Xochitl because
it made for good TV.
In the same way that
Pinche
took everything to the face, Xochitl took everything on the chin.
Yeah. Yeah. All the while getting screamed at.
Melissa was slamming her around, smacking her, throwing her down, tearing the ring apart during the fight. Screaming, "This is my litter, bitch." My litter was her big one. That's what she said a lot of times.
This is my litter box.
My litter.
Yep.
Whooping her ass.
Really?
Xochitl, I don't think got a hit in. Like, it was...
I think she got maybe one. But Melissa was just... I mean, and I literally wiping the ring with her. Like, sliding her in the mud up into the next corner. Like, the ring, all of it was down. Like, you could see what is his name? Isaac, something, like, trying to put the ring back together and then just finally being like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Just, yeah. So then at the very end.
At the very end, Melissa wins. They said when the four were done, she's no
longer up for elimination.
She's no longer up for elimination. They send her back to the room.
Honestly, that's the fight that they want to see in her anyway. So, yeah.
So that leaves it between Frankie, Ursula, and Xochitl. Right. And I agree with their pick on who they sent home. However, one of the things that I brought up is if we're doing things based off of the elimination challenge, Xochitl hands down should have gone.
Right.
Because Xochitl got her ass whooped and looked like she didn't put up much of a fight. Not that I think Melissa gave her much of a chance.
Yeah, I don't think she could. Melissa was so fast. Like, I swear, she had limbs everywhere.
But, like, again, Pinche laid in the coffin, probably just at the wrong spot.
Yeah.
But took so much of everything.
And got sent home. I mean, it is what
and then got sent home. I'm just saying. Now... and like I said, we'll get into it later. I do think Ursula Major was the right choice.
Right.
I'm sad because I love.
Me too.
I love them.
And
one of my favorites going into this.
Really love the ideas behind the looks but yeah, just
and not only that, Ursula's death was so far, I would say, embarrassing as a type of death that it is, because she's sitting there pissing in a toilet, and then is swirly / drowned in her own piss.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's kind of rude, guys.
Like, you don't think about it when you're like, oh, she's just being drowned in the toilet, but it clearly starts off with them pissing in the toilet, standing there pissing.
Yeah, that's,
And then all of a sudden, the Boulet show up behind them. Okay, I'm sorry. Whoever it is shows up behind them.
The stranger, right.
And
stranger in the night.
Throws her head immediately in the toilet. There's no flush, no nothing.
Not right.
And I was thinking about, drowned in your own piss. Like, that would suck so bad. And that's how Ursula was taken out.
Which I just they did her dirty. Okay, so our rankings.
Now we don't know what our rankings are. We don't share them beforehand.
Oh, I was gonna be like, I know what my rankings are. What are you talking about? Yeah, we don't know with each other. And as you found out last episode, if you watched, they were quite similar.
This one, I'm pretty sure, is not going to be.
Yeah.
So here is the difference, I think, between us and how we end up picking these. Okay. Of the two of us, I am the wrestling fan. I watch wrestling every Wednesday, every Saturday. I watch
he still does, is what he's saying.
I watch all the AEW pay-per-views. I watch all the WWE pay-per-views. I keep up with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I just don't watch them because of cable issues and things like that.
And I was only exposed and forced in like the 90s.
So a lot of my choices are a combination of, do I think their characters would work in the 80s, and would I like to see them in the ring in the 80s?
Right. And mine are just like, would it work as a wrestling outfit? In terms of, like, I did gymnastics, I understand leotards and how they're supposed to...
I've watched people wrestle in jorts, so...
Well, yes, but how they are supposed to stay on the body and not expose oneself unless they are shredded intentionally.
So, baby, what's your number 8? Okay, and as you can see here, Pinche has been eliminated, so they are now a permanent fixture.
Right.
In the number 8 or 9 spot. So.
Okay, my number 8 was actually Ursula. And it really hurts me to say that. Because I think her concept was amazing. Her naming was amazing. I mean, I like the whole idea, but first of all, there's no disco. We heard that her performance was not particularly good, was one of their complaints. And this is just not a wrestling outfit. This is a rollerblading outfit. Like, I could see her in the rink, like, roller skating. Right. Because it's supposed to be 80s, but she's, Saturday night. But it's not a fully developed wrestling idea.
My number 8 is also Ursula Major, which I was pretty sure we were both going to have them as our number 8.
Which again, it just hurts me.
A lot of it for the same reasons. Here's the thing: this is an outfit I'm not even necessarily just a fan of, in terms of, it's quite literally, it feels like it was just some cloth that was thrown together. Like, this is the type of thing I expect to see at a gay pride festival, right?
Right.
In terms of just outside in the summer sun, just being
roller
free.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But as far as this competition's concerned, especially this specific episode, this is all about some sort of wrestling attire.
Right.
80s wrestling, the ugly ladies of wrestling, and they said specifically it was the 80s. And this just didn't cut it for me.
Yeah, I feel
like... And it sucks, because Ursula is actually one of my favorite people out of all these people.
Yeah, I feel like if she had done, like, maybe like little boy shorts, in maybe dangled some glitter balls for the judges because they were definitely set on this whole like that's not a disco look. I'm not as set on that, like I said, because I think her afro, her makeup, the headband, I think that was so perfect for this kind of retro look that she was trying to pull off. But again, I agree. She didn't even have a tube top on. It was a strip that's held in place by suspenders. I wish that there had been a little bit more like wrestling versus, because I think it could have been a really good concept.
Oh yes. All right, my number 7 is actually Foxy Adjue. When I said earlier that me and the judges aren't going to agree on a couple of them, Foxy was one of them. Why is the thing being all weird?
Mm.
Look, fit where you're gonna fit. I don't really care how centered it is.
Right.
I just think it's an ugly costume. I'm just being honest.
They said that too.
And for me, the look is the majority of this specific one.
That's exactly what they said. This look is very bland. It's very lackluster. It's not particularly inspired.
I have no problem with the filth side of it because, we eventually get into some filth looks in this show that are both disgusting and outstanding.
Far above this, yeah, but...
Okay. But this was just, it was like, came out dressed in a brown leotard, took a shit on the stage.
Right. As far as we know.
As far as we know. We obviously didn't see everything.
Right.
But what was shown to us. And they did the little thing with their clothes where they, like, flossed their stuff with
honestly,
I didn't enjoy it.
The judges did say that her performance was amazing. And that she really brought the concept to life with her act. But considering that's all we saw, it didn't work that well for us. My number 7 was Frankie.
It's trying to lock it. Is the problem.
Oh. Well.
What was your number 7?
Frankie. And I do like Frankie too, but I have a problem. So, last episode, my complaint was that they wore the pink headband that had nothing to do with their tribal witch. And underneath the black X tape for the nips was hot pink. Again, she's got hot pink X's over the nips. And I agree with them that this is just sort of like, there's just not a concept put together necessarily. This is her in 80s aerobics gear. She looks punk, but it's not like a memorable theme. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my number 6 was Foxy. Because of the same reasons. We did not get to see apparently her own this outfit. And I felt like it was it's just brown. She looks really pretty, but it's just brown. And also, again, with the leotard thing, it was ill-fitted in the hiney. And, it sometimes happens like that off the rack if you're not full-figured back there, but that's when you gotta take it in or something, because that droopy butt just does not do it for me.
So, my number 6, you guys remember when I told you, when we were doing this, there were 2 people that I didn't agree with that they had in the top spot?
Right.
And I even told you 2 of them for me are near the bottom.
Here's the other.
The other one is Meatball. I'm just not a fan of the look.
Right.
It's at least, from this point on, for me, everything at least looks like it could be pro wrestling.
Right.
However, she got the big hair.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm just not a fan of the look, like the color choice, like the orange and the yellow together.
Yeah, but she's a hamburger.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
You don't like mustard on your burgers,
right.
So it makes sense.
Right.
I don't either. But,
the body slamming the burger was funny.
Yeah, I like the rip away.
And the rip away that they made sure did it to the beat of the song.
I know, like they timed that extremely well. Yeah.
But yeah, so my number 6 it's Meatball.
Poor Meatball.
My number 5 is, where are you? Melissa Be Fierce.
Okay.
Obviously I don't have them. I mean, probably about as low as they were. They're probably one of the few that, well, them and Frankie, or not Frankie. I'm sorry, them and Ursula
are the ones you agree with.
Are the ones that I agreed with that were in the bottom 4.
Right.
And my thing with Melissa, a lot of that is, for me, and this being Dragula,
it's too glam.
It's too pretty.
Yeah.
I don't mind there being glam, but there's nothing alternative about this look to me. This is something I could see anybody that does drag.
That's why I said it's too glam. Yeah.
It doesn't look bad. It looks fine.
Right. I agree.
But at this point, I also am well aware of what Melissa's capable of.
We weren't when we first watched this.
No, we were. Because we watched her in...
I know, but, you're not supposed to be. But she's finding her footing.
But for me, it's not the performance. Because, again, they don't really show us a lot of the performance. And this goes back into... I would love if they started showing...
Like if they had an after show or something.
Like on YouTube.
Patreon, even.
YouTube or Patreon. Putting up the full performances for each individual person.
That would be so cool.
Would be amazing. But yeah, so my number 5 is Melissa.
Okay. My number 5 is Xochitl. I probably would have put her lower, except for it was more inspired than the other looks below her. I don't know. I just didn't like it, and it was coming apart. And that was one of the complaints that the judges had, that there were, mishaps. And I just felt like it looked like it was going to come apart.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. What's your number 4?
Oh, my number 4 was Melissa. And pretty much for the same reasons. She's a very pretty kitty. And... I wish that she had shown her Be Fierce side that she shows in the mud wrestling in this costume.
Right.
I think there's so many things she could have done with even this as the base layer to make it look alt or to act in that way. And again, she didn't do any acrobatics, anything cat-like, honestly, other than like licking her paws and so on and so forth. So...
All right, my number 4 is Vander Von Odd. So, there's a specific reason for Vander Von Odd. I love Vander Von Odd's look, and they have one of the better and more well put together looks. Performance-wise, they're the only ones that brought a prop to the stage, and I do love that. My problem is this does not scream 80s to me. This is stuff I see people more likely to do wrestling-wise. Again, as somebody who has grown up watching wrestling, this is definitely more of a late 90s, early 2000s look.
I don't know. I feel like it harkens back to more of the... Oh, what are they? They're the Hispanic wrestlers. Luchadors.
Yeah. This is the type of stuff they'd still wear today.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, wouldn't they have worn that in the 80s?
No, they wouldn't. Theirs wouldn't have been all glittery and shit like that. You might have had... You maybe would have had one person doing that, but that's again more of a modern look to me.
Okay. Well.
Especially without wearing a mask. Just saying.
It's painted on.
Yeah.
Right.
My number 3 is Frankie Doom. This is one of the few that to me screamed 80s. And I mean screamed it. Especially when you were talking wrestling, there were tons of women that actually looked like this.
Yeah.
That had the crazy hair and, you know, their boobs hanging out, not
the
to that extent.
The aerobics outfit look,
but the aerobics outfit look, this is what an 80s wrestler, in my opinion, would have wore.
Yeah.
And she had the makeup caked on just right.
I mean, again, like I said, she's very
And I loved
punk.
when she came out, she's like, how's it going, boys? And
yeah,
then,
she's
licked
very
her lips.
punk looking, but, you know, I just didn't feel like there was a gimmick or something memorable other than, you know, the pink tits, which is very memorable in a good way. But my number 3 was Loris.
You had her higher than I thought you would.
I mean, like, I will give her props. This was a very well thought out, like, every part of it met back together. Like, she figured out where the slime should come from, where the toxic ooze should be. Like, it is, and it's a very 80s, it's very toxic to me. And we do like Toxic Avenger, so, you know, there is that. But it's still, like, you know, color choice and stuff like that is just, it's very 80s, but I am not. I mean, I was born then, but the color choice is not.
Right. What's your number 2?
Oh, my number 2 was Meatball. And again, not paying attention to color choices because I am hypocritical like that. I thought this was a really well thought out character, and the execution of the outfit was done quite well, and it's simple, which is what the 80s ladies would have had, is just a very simple but on the other hand flashy outfit with a gimmick, big hair. You know, I thought it was fun that she came out with the burger and the tearaway. And I don't know how quickly she did the tearaway. I hope that she didn't do it immediately upon walking out on stage, but that's what it looked like in the edit. But I actually thought this was a very well thought out concept.
All right. Now,
she doesn't look like a meatball, though.
Right.
Definitely more like a hamburger.
My top 2 are solely based on what I like in wrestling. And, I mean, most of it has been. But, I like characters.
Right.
I grew up again in a time where you had The Undertaker, who was supposed to be an undead mortuary assistant. Mm-hmm. You had Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who was supposed to be just this crazy barber who was running around with a pair of garden shears, honestly.
Who was a beefcake?
And he was just a big guy. Like, you're the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And that's just that's just the 80s and
right.
Quite a bit of the 90s. You had the Heartbreak Kid, and Shawn Michaels.
You start getting The Rock.
And then, I mean, that's when you get to the 90s. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and things like that, which is my favorite era. But just thinking back to the 80s, like, the characters, like, they weren't themselves. They were something bigger.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
And that's where these last 2 looks come in for me. So my number 2 is Xochitl. Yes, the outfit could have been better in terms of how it fit and things like that. But in terms of the pure character play and the base design of what they wanted for the look and the reveal that they did with coming out with the almost Ric Flair-like robe.
That's true.
That came off. And I just thought it was very well done base-wise.
Yeah.
And again, they did a good job of making sure we didn't see too much of the lower half of her outfit, and they did it for a reason, because it was sliding all over the fucking place. And
well, I'm pretty sure the bulge would have gotten them.
Nah, because I'm pretty sure the bulge didn't come out of the pants. I'm
pretty
sure the bulge was.
You saw the black undergarment.
And this would have been a character I would have loved to have seen on TV.
Right.
It would have been so much fun to have this person come out dressed up like a fucking lizard.
Yeah.
Doing flips and drop kicks and shit.
I won't disagree.
And that leaves me with my number 1. I did agree with the Boulets on this, and I'm pretty sure this is the last time this happens.
With Loris?
With Loris being up the top for me.
Okay.
I loved this look. This...
Again, it's very toxy.
It's 80s. Toxic Avenger. It definitely is probably the, in my opinion, best put together wrestling looking outfit. Because it doesn't look too big. It doesn't look too small. It actually fits just right on her. God damn, this fucking strap is not working the way it's supposed to. It's...
You could never be a drag queen.
No, I couldn't. It's the heels. But...
I was going to say, it's the strap.
But it's everything looked good. I do agree. I think it would have looked even cooler if she would have left the doctor's mask on.
Oh, the mask made it look.
I did like the mask. I didn't dislike it when it came off because she still had the ooze coming out of her face.
But I wish she had just
But the mask almost gives you that wonder.
It's the radioactive look too. Yeah, it's
the
post-apocalyptic.
The unseen, like you want to see behind it.
Right.
But you're not allowed to.
Because you see, like, the toxic slime on her chest. Like, you've got to imagine she's drooling it. So, yeah, I liked it with the...
and she had the wild hair, and everything just went together really well for me. And this, again, I was actually surprised when the look came together. And I was like...
No.
Regardless of how fucking annoying I find you as a human being...
You're actually conceptually and creatively, she's really good. Yeah.
And you know what? Thank you for shutting the fuck up. You did a good job. They said, "Hey, you look great. You know, you came out, you worked on it, and you know what your words were? Thank you." And you turned around and walked off. That's how everyone should be. I don't need excuses,
explanations, any of it.
You can give your explanation to the camera guy in the back when you're done.
When you're interviewed.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
And my number one was Vander. And part of this is that she brought out something to subject to a beating so that we really got a full view of what her character could do. She stayed in character. Like, every move she made, a matador would make. Yeah. But it was very crisp. She was on point the whole time. I love the pink triangle because of reasons. There was no big hair, but this was, like the Boulet said, this was kind of one of those gender fluid looks. And I like it because it is. Like, they said...
It was a swan, I believe.
Yeah, but it is very gender fluid, you know, and it easily could have been 90s. If you know, to be, I guess, more accurate, but I like the look, and she was able to move in it, and obviously her performances are always top notch, and I think those are really important. Plus, all the pieces for this costume are immaculate, just immaculate. Like, it's obvious attention to detail is something that they excel in.
Right. So
that is my first place.
But yeah, so that's our rankings. Again, we were actually quite different on this.
Very.
We were both just all over the place in comparison. I think the only one we actually agreed on
Ursula
was Ursula, and everybody else was just.
Well, and Foxy is
amongst the bottom.
Yeah, but you know, that's fine. That's fine. That's what makes the world unique.
Yes.
But I definitely enjoyed this episode. But I will say this. Other than the mud wrestling, I enjoy the 80s wrestling far better in other seasons. Mostly because the fits are done much better.
Well, as the show gets on. As the show goes on.
And on and on and on and on.
I feel like a lot of it is people have ideas of what people have done in the past on the show.
Yeah.
And they know they've got to try and beat that.
Yeah.
So as the show continues on until it stops, and it will one day. I mean, it's inevitable.
Well, the Boulets are going to get bored doing the same old.
Maybe.
At some point.
I think they really like to torture people.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's exactly what I was, yeah.
But...
They'll find a different, more creative way to do it. You know they will.
They could do a game show.
Oh dear lord.
The Dragula's drag race, and it'd actually be a race in drag.
Right, with trapdoors and shit. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah, and I also think the other part of that is funding. And I don't mean the show's funding. I feel like a lot of the contestants that start coming in after season, like maybe at the start of season 3 or so, are a little bit more
established. Financially established, not necessarily.
Yeah, but part of it is being more established with at least clubs that they're performing for regularly or stuff like that, where they can afford leotards that fit just as a base, and then they move on from there. And of course there's always struggles. There's always people that are called out for, you know, using cardboard or this, that, or the other. But I really think that maybe, I don't know if the amount of time that they take, like the months that they take to actually record the show, if they have longer, if they're made aware of what costumes they are going to kind of need more ahead of time. Like, I'm not sure what the timeline is, but there's definitely something in it that the ladies are more prepared with better fabrics later on. So I think these guys did an amazing job as the forerunners.
I will say, as much as we weren't necessarily fans, Orgotic came in with nothing and made it to the finals. Yeah. So, I mean, there's still going to be people that aren't necessarily established at all.
And, by the way, that has nothing to do with Orgotic's finances that he said we're not necessarily big fans of.
No.
We could care less. Like JK came in with nothing, basically. And who was it?
No, my complaint, and you guys will hear that more once we get to season 5, I just wasn't a big Orgotic fan in terms of their look in general.
Oh, well, it's because it generally was the same
to me,
which is neither here nor there. But
I feel like a lot of people can fall into that category. Even Dali. I mean, Dali did a pretty good job of at least differentiating enough, but they still had the same basic face paint design on everything.
Well, you know, but you've got to be able to, because the same could be said with a Hoso in terms of.
Oh, it will be said,
and it
for
will
Hoso.
Be. But my thing is,
Hoso was one of my favorites until about halfway through the season, and then I was like, but Hoso, you look the same. Every week you look the same.
But here's the thing. Their costuming was very different. Dolly's costuming was very different per episode. And so that is the...
Please note, Dolly's my favorite in the entire show.
Yeah, that
series,
is...
Dolly's my favorite.
Where the Boulet brothers say, we want to see your drag in this. That's kind of how they're holding on to that. But the problem with, I think, Orgotics was every single look, like costuming-wise, was so similar. But we'll get to that when we get there. I really like this. They were very unique. There weren't... You know, what's surprising is when they say 80s women of wrestling, they don't really give too many tidbits. They do say, like, big hair, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you end up with all 8 of these ladies came out looking completely different.
Like, you look up 80s wrestlers, and one of the first really big names that come to mind, I don't know if this is going to work. Are you dead? Is Bull Nakano.
Oh, wow.
Let me see if I can...
That is some hair.
Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. And this is the type of stuff that I was talking about in terms of...
I bet that was an entire can of Aquanet.
Oh, I believe it. So this is Bull Nakano.
Cool look.
Legendary female wrestler. No, big screen it, you fucking jerks.
I mean,
or
I like
don't.
the kind of like lightning cracks across her face.
That didn't do me any well. Where the fuck is Images, dude? Images.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for. So that, like, this is
Wow.
Bull Nakano, and she's just a larger than life type character.
Yeah.
Like, again, she's what I think of when I see Frankie Doom, to be honest.
Okay,
and the way
I
Frankie was doing her stuff.
You know, but again, it could just come back to Frankie's performance.
She also did some outlandish
that
stuff
is
like
really
this.
cool.
I like that outfit.
Very pirate queen.
But if you look, let's see if we can find any more 80s women's wrestlers. 80s female wrestlers. who you are, Wendy Richter.
Yeah. Diva Dirt.
There's Bull.
Yeah, but I mean, like, big hair.
That's not Bull. That's another lady. That's the Great Moolah, though. A fabulous Moolah.
Right.
That,
looks like Peter Pan and Wendy.
I thought that was a blow-up doll.
Oh no. Yeah, I get it. It's very aerobics looking, very big hair, very big personality.
This is more Wendy Richter.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh no, that would be an 80s wrestler if it was Storm.
Right.
There's Jacqueline. That's a 90s wrestler. But yeah, so the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Right.
With Miss Elizabeth.
But still, I thought this was a fun episode.
It was.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I'm looking forward to the next.
And I do. I do tend to start enjoying the wrestling ones more as we move on. One of the complaints I had... Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Obviously, our first season of watching Dragula was season 4, so a lot of my opinion of this show was originally based off of what we saw there as a whole.
Right.
And one of the things that I struggled with this first season is the first 2 episodes already doesn't feel very Dragula-like in terms of...
There's not the filthy characters.
There's not like the filthy horror side of it.
Yeah, where's
you
the
got
horror?
You got the Wicked Witch, and the Wicked Witch made sense. The Wickedest Witch, to an extent.
Right, but it was very campy.
But it's still very campy, cheesy,
horror.
children's horror
Yeah.
is what I think of when I think of the Wickedest Witch.
We're waiting for Carrie. We're waiting for
And then you go through and you watch. It's the women's wrestling of '80s. Again, wrestling fan. I'm not like, hey, no, don't do wrestling. But for me, I'm like, it just doesn't really fit for me.
With
what
Dragula.
I think of when I think of alternative drag.
Right.
I'm not mad that they went this route because it's still fun.
When we think of alternative drag, which is pretty much entirely colored by the Boulet brothers at this point.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
to be completely fair, yeah. So we being horror fans have loved subsequent seasons because they really pick up on the horror and the filth and the grunge more. And honestly, when those are paired with the glamour in later seasons, they make the glamour even more glamorous, like more sparkly, because it's sparkly on a zombie or something like that. You know, it just... I don't know. So, it just suits better, I think.
The next episode is Zombie Apocalypse.
Okay.
And then we get Basic Bitches,
which is funny.
Sea Monsters Attack, and then the grand finale.
Okay.
And I think the grand finale combines with
The Last Supper.
Okay.
Which is always his favorite episode, and it's my least favorite.
This season's Last Supper was kind of boring. It was not as catty as I would have liked
He likes the cattiness, and I'm sitting... My secondhand embarrassment goes through the roof. Like, I cannot handle y'all. Like, y'all need to calm down. Like, whatever happened to putting Xanax in the drinks?
Like, I'm telling you now, one of my
so anti-personal.
One of my favorite Last Suppers is the one that has who's the one that you don't like
at all?
At all. It's the masked person.
No, I know who you're talking about.
What is her name?
Oh my god.
Season...
Hell on Wheels.
4? No, it would have been season 3.
But, like, in a really bad way.
No, maybe it wasn't season 3. It would have had to have been season 3.
Yeah, no, because she's the one that has such a problem with...
Xanax.
Well, and bitch.
And 2. That would have been season 2 then.
Yeah.
It was a problem with bitch.
Well, I mean, everybody.
I don't remember what her name is, and nobody's gonna watch this anyway, so you're not gonna come in the comments and tell me who it is. But we'll get there when we get there. But that's one of my favorite Last Suppers because
they call her out on being.
They call her out on being such an ass
and drugged up
being drugged up, and she don't care.
She's like
she's already drunk by the time the filming's even going on.
She's like there to sit there, their prescription, so you know. And I'm sitting there like, yo, y'all need to calm your tits.
But yeah, so yes, I love the Last Supper episodes. Those are my favorite.
I much prefer. So I loved the retribution that Bitch handed out. Like, some of the elimination challenges that they had originally were just so much more fun. Like the paintballing, when they were all mad at each other and they're just like, okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway.
No, so the reason why I love the Last Supper so much, and I'm being honest here now, is it gives them a chance to finally think about everything that has happened and actually put words together and how they really feel instead of just running off of pure adrenaline and emotion for that time. Like, we run into a lot of situations where we watch and somebody doesn't like what somebody else said about them and they just fly off the handle.
Very reactionary.
And it's very reactionary. Yeah. This is a chance for them to finally sit down, and they've had months since it's happened. They get shown the clips and they're able to think about it. And there's some...
But do they? I
think some of them, a lot of it's been stewed on.
Yeah.
They've been waiting for this moment. Like, I can finally call you out in front of everybody because we've not had the chance.
Yeah. I guess when I think on stuff like that, because I am an overthinker, so I have had an argument 5 different ways in my head before it even happens, if it even happens. And most of the time, by the way, I waste my time because it never even happens and the situation is just it's so stupid. Anyway, but were I in that position, I would have come up with the most diplomatic way of phrasing what I needed to say. Not in terms of like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but like, how can I put this so that you understand what I'm saying before you jump to conclusions about what I'm saying? Even if it upsets you, what I'm saying, I want you to hear the words coming out of my mouth and understand what I'm saying before you react, kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas I still, and that's not everyone's personality. I see a bunch of them still just jumping onto each other and being like, yeah, you're a total cunt. I mean, fair, but maybe an explanation is at hand, you know? It's in order.
I think a lot of it, too, is Queens wants to put, especially in the situation now, once you get to the Last Supper, they want you to know how they feel, but for the most part, don't want to put you down in the same way everyone else in life has. Because they still understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on what it was, yeah.
Right. It's kind of, it's...
But I guess I'm so used to, like, in my life having been put down and bullied and stuff like that, that I'm coming at it from a different perspective, because I was definitely bullied, guys, like, badly all of my school life. So my thing is more, I want to make sure that what I say is exactly what I mean and isn't just flamboyantly harsh because I'm pissed off. Right. Which I can do. Don't get me, I am fully capable of flambeing a bitch. But I prefer for you to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying, and therefore I want to think about it. Plus, you know, like, there's always the frustrated crying, which makes me want to cry more because I'm frustrated and crying in the first place, and most of that frustration that made me cry in the first place is that murder's illegal. So you might need me to calm down at that point for me to even, like, be able to say a word, without just, like, looking like I'm going to stab you, which is exactly what's going through my mind.
Right.
But I understand the bullied culture, the rejected culture, the black sheep. It's why I like the alt stuff. But I think that's also where my aversion to outright cattiness comes from. Like, I avoid that. Like, my friends and I are not catty. Do we roast each other continually? Yes, but we roast each other. And all 3 of us, because it's a small group, are totally fine with it. Like, we talk about it and stuff like that. We talked about it before we even started that kind of relationship. And it's because all 3 of us, being best friends, have all come from similar backgrounds in terms of being bullied and everything. And that is not the feeling we ever want to give to each other. We don't, you know.
Right.
And I think listening to the cattiness and everything, it makes me cringe because I'm like, oh, I remember how this goes, and it's never good. Yeah, I do remember the time, and that's the problem. I can't forget the time. I can forget my own name, but I cannot forget the time in 3rd grade.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to the next one. I will...
The zombie apocalypse.
Be the only one in our comments, and I will be looking up the name of the person that you find the most amusing on Xanax, and I probably despise the most in...
It starts with an M.
It does.
I want to keep saying Mochi, but that's Zoshi's last name.
No. And I want to say Madeline, but it's not Madeline Hatter, and she's actually not that bad.
Is it Mox?
No.
Moxicillin is just not real enough.
Anyway, we will get back to you on that one.
Yes.
Love you guys.
That's going to do it. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Where's the button? There's the button.